Welcome to the Startup Leaders Show, where we learn lessons from leading startup founders and executives. I'm your host, Lisa Dreher. I'm excited to introduce our guest for today, Don Richardson. He's the president of Milsat. Welcome to the show, Don.
Lisa, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, maybe we can start by just having you give us a little bit of background on yourself and Milsat.
Well, it's been a 15-year plus run with Milsat. We started in my spare bedroom, working websites, selling satellite repair parts for antenna systems out of my bedroom back in 2004. And within a fairly short period of time, I was getting calls from clients saying, "Hey, can you put some of these parts in?" And had to quit my full-time job, and the rest is history. I had visions that Milsat was going to be a military satellite communications company. That's the name, the whole plan. The plan A, as they say, was to work the aircraft carrier fleets and support my clients with their commercial Satcom. But it was, in fact, the cruise line business that really boomed. We had one of our competitors in Miami. The technician had hurt himself working on some hurricane cleanup, and the phone, his clients were calling me. And when he recovered, some of his clients didn't go back. They stayed with me. And so that was really the launch of Milsat back in those days, transitioning from a bedroom part-time internet sales to out in the field working on antenna systems many years ago.
Wow, that is amazing. So, gosh, that is just amazing. So, kind of doing that, shifting gears, how difficult was that? I mean, it kind of sounds like maybe it was easy, but did you find your way there really quickly?
We were profitable in the first year. Yeah, absolutely. That was almost the first year of operations with Milsat was a one-man show, and I made enough money to cover essentially what my salary would have been full-time as an engineer with a defense contractor. So fairly painless, but I was busy. I was on the road a lot and traveling all around the world, supporting primarily cruise lines, but also other commercial shipping. Wasn't until after probably the second year in business that the U.S. Navy found me again and started working back on aircraft carriers, supporting commercial Satcom antenna systems. So fortunately, the cruise business was booming back in those days. And eventually we wound up with antenna systems on over half the world's fleet, cruise ship fleets. So pretty exciting times, busy times.
Absolutely. Well, gosh, so that leads to a question that I just have to ask, which is, how has that been different in the last year? Because obviously cruise lines haven't been running like they normally do in the last year or so.
No, the cruise lines have tragically gone from, well, close to 400 ships worldwide to just a handful that are operating right now. And they're struggling. Lots of support contractors, including Milsat, have watched a very good business dwindle to virtually nothing. So,
yeah. Oh my gosh. So, what kind of trends are you keeping an eye on right now within your business?
Well, Milsat has been an active technology leader in antenna systems. So we have been tracking very closely the low Earth orbit LEO satellite business. With every satellite that goes in space, there's a requirement to track that satellite on the ground. And we have been working almost nonstop, developing new antenna technology, trying to make it less expensive, less difficult to support ground infrastructure with new technology, new antenna systems, better ways of doing it. And very excited to say that it looks like it's going to be a good business. Designing, building, and deploying low Earth orbit satellite antennas is going to be a strong business for the next 5 or 6 years.
Wow, that's great. It sounds like a great position to be in.
Yeah, it's not just the commercial guys. It's the U.S. military is actively pushing across several fronts. Letting everybody know in the business that they are full on with endorsing, bringing in the idea that low Earth orbit satellite technology is part of the military strategy.
Yeah. Well, cool. So we actually invited you here to talk a little bit about how you grew your business over the years, how you've kind of gotten past the challenges and things like that. So maybe we can start by having you just give us, like, what have been your biggest keys to business success so far?
Well, I believe persistence is probably the number one. Steady, rock steady, being there when your customer wants you to be there, which is always unexpected, always on the weekends, always when they have an emergency, they expect you to be there. And so reliability, persistence, patience, these are the virtues of a successful small business. I don't know of too many businesses that exploded like something like a rocket. It's more like a turtle race, right? I think starting out as a small business, you have to temper your expectations. And if you can just pay yourself enough to get by in that first year or two, then you are doing very well. And you need to build your business around that, because most small businesses start out with no money, virtually zero dollars, right? So you have to come up with some unique ideas how to leverage that in instead of a liability, turn it into something that still puts you into a position where your customers depend on you, that they need you, and can rely on you. So that's a reputation that you'll grow. That's where the persistence comes in. The turtle race always wins because you're focused. You always, even if somebody picks you up and turns you in the other direction, and that happens sometimes. If you're a turtle, sometimes you just don't have all the control that you'd like to see. But always have a backup plan, because plan A never turns out.
Oh,
Stay
yeah.
flexible. And when you're competing against large companies, you have to realize that a large company sets a strategy in place that sometimes, depending on the size of the company, can go back a decade. And they are heavily invested in big ideas, and technology oftentimes will evolve around them. They will get past, some of the old C-band satellite operators, for example, is a good example where they invested huge amounts of money in C-band, and it wasn't very long, it seemed, that KU and then KA and then LEO, the technology just started moving very rapidly, and the guys working on an exclusive C-band story, they lost. They couldn't keep up. And as a big business, that happens. You get committed to a specific technology, and you get left behind. A small company, small business, you can adapt, you can quickly change. You don't have any money, so you're not invested in anything specifically in a big way. So you can let the technology carry you rather than fight the technology.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. I love that idea. And I think, I mean, I don't know, you've obviously been in the satellite industry for a really long time. And I mean, I think right now we are on the cusp of more changes than have ever been seen in the industry historically.
That's right. When I first got into the satellite business, it would have been 1980. I was a young electronics technician in the Navy, and we were just introducing UHF Satcom in those days onto the U.S. Navy fleet, transitioning from primarily an HF radio system to UHF Satcom. It was an amazing time, a transition change operationally. It changed the way the U.S. Navy did business, how it communicated, and that hasn't slowed down. So that was a 75 baud teletype circuit. UHF Satcom, and with a little bit of voice capability, and that changed the way we did business, believe it or not. So it was a transition from a 75 baud HF to a 75 baud UHF Satcom terminal. The next thing you know, within a blink of an eye, it was 2400 baud. And the old mechanical teletypes went away, and we were replacing those with digital teletypes.
Yeah.
Which then got later replaced with word processors, electronic word processors. So that process is continuing almost daily. The amount of bandwidth that we're pushing to clients is growing exponentially, and the demand is not slowing down. It hasn't slowed down since day one.
Amazing. Amazing. So when you think back, what would you say is the most valuable business lesson you've learned over the years?
Well, a lot of doors slammed in your face. You have to not take it personally. If you're offering something that the customer doesn't want in a way that they don't appreciate, or maybe your pricing is wrong, you have to step back. If that door gets shut in your face, you have to ask yourself why. And try and learn from those mistakes. I think you have to say to yourself, I made a mistake. What is that mistake? Let's learn from that mistake and do your best not to make it again. But you will. But eventually, if you're successful, you will have changed your strategy. You will have changed the approach. You will lower your price. You will do something that makes the customer comfortable with what you're offering. And eventually come to rely on what it is that you're doing. Trust you. That's the hardest part, is earning your customers' trust, and that means reliability, dependability, being there.
Sure. So, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So I guess, knowing what you know now, is there a piece of advice that you would have given yourself when you first started out?
Yes. It would have been hire an accountant early on. I think you hear a lot about companies that fail in year 3, and it's all about accounting. When you're starting out in your business, you're completely focused on selling, making money. Well, by the end of year 3, you're probably going to be making money. And if you haven't got an accounting system in place that can keep track of everything, you're going to find yourself in trouble. The IRS is going to be busy. If you're not counting your money, trust me, the IRS is. And so be prepared to start your business with the idea that whether you believe it or not, the accountant will keep you out of trouble and help you sustain your business. So early on, engage with an accountant. Learn business law as it applies to your local area. This is something a lot of young startup companies forget, is that there's a lot of regulatory issues that you've got to deal with, whether it be something as simple as getting the proper business license for working out of your house, or because that's where most of us start, is in our spare bedroom or garage. And so transitioning from that to an office space is a huge step, and it is a mark of success. Get out of your office in your bedroom as quick as possible. You have to get out of that bedroom for sure. That was probably the first big stepping stone for Millsat, was when it transitioned to a real office in a shopping center next to the barber shop.
Hey, got to start somewhere, right?
Got to start somewhere.
That's great. So is there anything that you would do different if you were to start all over again?
Well, I would have started a lot sooner.
Mm.
I think that I was 40 years old when I finally worked up the courage to start my own business. And so the biggest advice I can give anybody is put your fears aside, push it forward. The younger, the better. it's easier to pick yourself up off the ground when you're 20 than when you're 40, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm sure that I think that what happens to a lot of folks is they get comfortable with that corporate paycheck, right? And
Yeah.
then it becomes even more difficult to go out on your own.
Well, that's exactly right. If you can transition while you have a job, do a part-time gig while you have a job, it's going to be a lot easier to work that than suddenly finding yourself on a riff out of a job for whatever reason and trying to say, okay, now's the time to start my new business. That's a tough one because you need the money and you need the insurance, the medical insurance, and all of that your full-time job helps you with. I would recommend to a young person thinking about starting a business, do it while you still have a job and not wait until you're unemployed in a jam to try and come up with a new idea for a business.
Yeah. The side hustle is a good idea, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it teaches
Oh,
you a lot. It teaches you how to register your business. It teaches you how to get that accountant on board with you. How to, because I don't believe the school system is teaching kids how to do this. I don't think entrepreneurism is a subject that they teach well.
yeah.
So it's something you got to teach yourself, and a lot of times it's not easy. It's hard work.
Oh, yeah. And sometimes you just have to learn things the hard way, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Hopefully the fewer the better. So a lot of times when we're speaking with entrepreneurs, what we hear from them is that the business has a tendency to kind of hit these plateaus. And I don't know if you've experienced that over the years,
Mhm.
but if you have, how do you kind of push past those plateaus?
Well, a plateau is caused by a lot of different things. For every excuse, there's a plateau. All right. So getting access to money, raising money for that project you're trying to do, and not being able to do that or not raise enough money, and you have to adjust your plan to suit if you need $1 million for your project and you've only been able through whatever means you're talking to 100,000, then your plan needs to adjust to that $100,000. You have to reflect. Your plan has to reflect reality. So the plateau, if you say, well, I didn't get my $1 million, so I'm going to hold off for a while, that's a plateau you'll never get past, right? You have to say, I only got 100,000. I'm going to have to work with that and see what kind of plan you can come up with. A lot of times, people who are investing in you want to see you come up with a good share of the money yourself, right? They're at first, unless you have a proven track record of turning their money into to more money, they're not going to give you money just because they like you. It's right. That's a plateau. So work with your accountant early on. Find a bank that you're comfortable with, and work with a banker to establish a relationship with a good, solid banker who will help you. A bank will help you in a lot of different ways. One of the transition periods for us, a plateau, if you will, is that we could not get a good liability insurance program at the company. And that's common with a lot of startup companies involved in operations outside the country, or you're doing something like working waterfront and need the marine insurance. It's very difficult. Many times the full service bank has insurance programs that they can help you do that. So that's in every case of a plateau, there's something holding you back. Whatever it is, it's just an excuse if you let it be an excuse. So a lot of times you can't get past the plateau you want, but work the new plan B around reality. I wanted $1 million. I need $1 million, but only got 100,000. I have a new plan, right?
Yeah.
And so the transition past these plateaus always is the ability to be flexible and adjust the plan to reality, because the plateau is something that's in your way. It's an obstacle. It's And for some people, it's a transition from 3 employees to 5 employees, and 5 employees to 10 employees, and all of that. All of that will come as you grow your business. Just work the limitations with reality, and make sure you have friends from the accounting system, your bankers, mentors. I would highly encourage people starting out in business to reach out and talk to successful business operators. They will talk to you. They don't always have good advice.
No kidding. But I think you're absolutely right. I think people that are successful love to pay it forward because they remember when they were there.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I want to end with one final question, the big question of the day, which is if you were to make one prediction about the future of business, technology, maybe the satellite industry, what would that prediction be?
Wow, that's a great question, Lisa, and one that I'm totally unprepared for. But I will say that space is where we're going to go. So everything that we're doing as a technology on this Earth is pointing to space. We are expanding. We are launching satellites looking for water on the moon. We are preparing for operations on Mars and beyond. We are heading to space. So if we were to make a prediction, it's not if, but when we will be colonizing the moon, Mars, and beyond. That's my prediction. So hopefully I will be in space before I die.
Oh, absolutely. I hope you will be as well. And I'm really excited about this idea of humans becoming a spacefaring species. So
yes.
Yeah. So as that happens, we'll have to have you back again. When you go and you take your trip out to space, I want you to come back on the show and tell us what it is like.
Well, when MilSat is set up to do moon base operations, I'll give you a call and say we're here.
Oh, all right. And then I want an invitation.
You got it.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being here today, Don.
Thanks, Lisa. Enjoyed it.